Who do you trust to always tell you the truth? The news, your doctor, your friends? Human nature is to be manipulated by sources society believes are credible, and many of these sources are quite aware of this and will use it to control people.
Interesting is, remember, it's illegal to possess these stolen documents. It's different for the media, so everything you learn about this, you're learning from us.
The Crucible, a play written by the famous playwright Arthur Miller, tells the story of the Salem witch trials, centered around a young girl named Abigail, who is able to convince the town that she has seen the devil and can tell who is a witch and who isn't. From the very start, Abigail used the trust of the townspeople for her own personal goal of trying to marry John Proctor.
I know you, John Proctor. You love me. Whatever sin it is, you love me yet.
But when John Proctor doesn't give in, Abigail's plans quickly fall apart. Miller has confirmed that the parallels between the Salem in his story and the Red Scare of the 1950s are not a coincidence, and was an attempt to bring people back to their senses. The defeat of Nazi Germany in May of 1945 left the ideologically different Allies with no common enemy uniting them, and with a power vacuum all throughout Europe, the Communist East and the Capitalist West turned on each other. This period was known as the Cold War. In America, a wide wave of untrust swept across the country, led by McCarthy. Anyone who dared to speak out against this was also branded a communist and had their career ruined. People believed McCarthy because he was the first one to ever say these things, and that made him credible. And because he was believed as credible, he was followed blindly by many. A study in 1963 wanted to see just how far people would go when they were told to do something by an authority figure, done by the psychologist Stanley Milgram, who, for this experiment, created an electric shock generator with 30 switches. Each switch was marked in 15-volt increments, going from 15 to 450. 40 subjects were recruited via mail and a newspaper ad, though they thought they were going to participate in an experiment about memory and learning.
One theory is that people learn things correctly whenever they get punished for making a mistake. A common application of this theory would be when parents spank a child if he does something wrong. But actually, we know very little about the effect of punishment on learning because almost no truly scientific studies have been made of it in human beings.
In the test, each subject was informed clearly what their payment was for showing up, and they would keep the payment no matter what happened after they arrived. Next, the subject met an experimenter, the person leading the experiment, and another person told to be another subject. The other subject was in fact an actor pretending to be a subject. He was a 47-year-old male accountant. The two subjects, the real subject and the fake subject, drew slips of paper to indicate who was going to be the teacher and who was going to be the learner. The lottery was in fact set up, and the real subject would always get the role of the teacher. The teacher saw that the learner was strapped to a chair and electrodes were attached. The subject was then seated in another room in front of the shock generator, unable to see the learner. The subject was instructed to teach word pairs to the learner. When the learner made a mistake, the subject was instructed to punish the learner by giving him a shock.
The machine generates electric shocks, and when you press one of the switches all the way down, the learner gets a shock. When you release it, the shock stops, you see.
15 volts higher for each mistake. The learner never received the shocks, but pre-taped audio was triggered when the shock switch was pressed. If the experimenter, seated in the same room, was contacted, the experimenter would answer with profane nods, "Please continue, please go on." The experimenter requires that you go on. It is absolutely essential that you continue. You have no other choice, you must go on. Starting with mild prods and making it more authoritarian for each time the subject contacted the experimenter. During the Stanley Milgram experiment, many subjects showed signs of tension. 3 subjects had full-blown, uncontrollable seizures. Although most subjects were uncomfortable doing it, all 40 subjects obeyed up to 300 volts.
Time. Continue, please. Go on.
There's a lot of them here, you know, they have a heart condition there. You want me to go?
Just continue, please.
Sharp. Axe, needle, stick, blade. Answer, please. Wrong. I'm up to 180 volts.
Please continue, teacher.
Neil, you're gonna get a shock. 180 volts.
25 of the 40 subjects continued to give shocks until the maximum level of 450 volts was reached. If the subject asked who was responsible if anything would happen to the learner, the experimenter answered, "I am responsible."
Accept all responsibility?
The responsibility is mine, correct. Please go on.
This gave the subject a relief, and many continued. Before the Stanley Milgram experiment, experts thought about 1 to 3% of subjects would not stop giving shocks. They thought you'd have to be a psychopath to do so. Still, 65% never stopped giving shocks. None stopped when the learner said he had heart trouble. How could that be? It is believed that it has to do with our most innate behavior that we should do as told, especially from authority persons.